If you've been watching the Boise market lately and feeling like something is shifting but you can't quite put your finger on it, you've been picking up on something real, because March didn't just bring more activity, it clarified what kind of market we're actually in now. This spring market is not chaotic, it's also not frozen, it's being really selective. Segment 1, the market mood. Before we even get into stats, here's the best way I can describe it. So things are moving, but buyers are thinking more before they move. So they're not rushed and they're very intentional. March had the highest number of sales we've seen so far this year, and that's actually a bigger deal than it sounds, because January and February felt a little cautious. People were looking but not always pulling the trigger. March is where that has shifted. So we had about 810 homes sell, which is a pretty big jump from February. So buyers didn't disappear, they just needed a little more clarity before making decisions. Segment 2, pricing. Now let's talk about prices, because this is where headlines tend to get a little dramatic. Median price is sitting around $540K, and yes, technically that's down from last year, but month to month it's basically flat. And when I look at this, I don't see prices dropping, I see a market that's sorting itself out. Because resale homes actually bumped up pretty noticeably from February, new construction pulled back a bit. So it's not one clean trend, it's more like different parts of the market adjusting in different ways, which honestly is what I'd expect in a market where buyers suddenly have more choices. Segment 3, new construction. So one thing that really stood out to me, almost half of the homes that sold in March were new construction, and that's a big shift. And if you've been out there touring homes, you've probably felt this. There are just a lot more new builds, and they often come with perks already built into the transaction that resale homes don't often have. Rate buy downs, closing cost credits, a little more flexibility. So buyers right now are not just asking, do I like this house? They're asking, does this make more sense than what a builder is offering for me down the street? And that's quietly changing how resale homes need to show up. Segment 4, where buyers are actually finding value. There are still some more approachable price points out there, but they're pretty specific. CUNA and Star are standing out a bit, especially with older resale homes in the mid 400s. But usually when we see that, it comes with a trade-off: location, condition, or both, which isn't a bad thing. It just means buyers are being more thoughtful about where they're flexible. Segment 5, what's coming next? And here's the part I pay most attention to. Pending sales have gone up to 4 months in a row now, so that's a pattern. And when you look at what's already lined up, a lot of those are closing in April, and there's already a strong pipeline for May. So this isn't just a 1 month pop-up, it's telling us the spring momentum is real and here. Segment 6, inventory. Why some homes feel stuck. All right, so we've got over 1,500 homes on the market. So yes, buyers have more to choose from, but not all that inventory is moving the same way. About 1 in 5 homes have been sitting 90 plus days, and most of those homes ended up needing a price reduction to sell. So when people ask me, are homes still selling? The answer is yes, but not automatically. Buyers are paying attention, they're comparing, they're noticing condition, they're noticing pricing, and they're willing to wait if something doesn't quite make sense. Section 7, timing. Why some homes still move fast. Even with all that, homes are still moving in the right situations. Average days are 55 days on market, but in Boise and Eagle, it's closer to a month. And even more nuanced than that is many times the right homes, the ones maybe with the perfect layout, the great price point, killer presentation, those oftentimes are pending within just a day or two. So when something is priced right, shows well, strong location, it doesn't sit. That part of the market is still very active. Section 8, the most important number. So we're sitting at about 2 months of inventory, and this is one of those numbers that explains a lot, because a truly balanced market is closer to 4 to 6 months. So even though things feel calmer, we're still dealing with limited supply, which is why buyers still need to be prepared, and sellers, if positioned correctly, can still do really well. Section 9, what's changing long term? Now, this part is a little less immediate, but really important. So Idaho just passed laws that will allow smaller, higher density housing and make it easier to build ADUs. So over time, we'll likely see more flexible housing options, more multi-generational setups, more inventory coming into the market. But that's more of a slow shift, not something that changes this summer. Geothermal housing project, quietly innovative. Boise has just received a $1 million grant to develop geothermal heating for a new housing project near Boise State. And if you're newer to Boise, this is actually something kind of unique about the area. We already have geothermal water heating parts of downtown. What's noticeable about this project, around 300 apartment units, potential energy cost reductions up to 80% for residents. So this isn't just about building more housing, it's about building housing that's more efficient to live in, which in a world where monthly costs matter just as much as purchase price, this is something I think we'll see more of over time. Micron expansion, long-term job growth signal. On the the economic side, Micron is continuing its expansion plans with its fabrication plant expected to come online in 2027. And this is one of those signals that doesn't impact the market overnight, but absolutely shapes it in over the next few years. Because when you have large-scale job creation, especially in tech and manufacturing, you tend to see continued demand for housing, more relocation into the area, and more stability in the local economy overall. So this is a long-term tailwind for the Boise market. HP exit, a counterbalance. At the same time, Hewlett-Packard announced plans to exit its Boise operations by 2027. And I think it's important to include both sides of the story because markets are never just one direction. So while we're seeing growth from companies like Micron, we're also seeing some corporate consolidation or shifts like this. In most cases, what matters is the net effect. And right now, Boise still leans towards growth overall, but it's something to keep an eye on. Caldwell growth. Caldwell continues to show pretty strong signs of growth. A few things happening here. So we have a new Fred Meyer is being built, expected in 2026, 2027. Roughly 250 jobs tied to that project and continued population growth. And what I'm watching here is the pattern. So when you start to see retail expansion, job creation, infrastructure following population, that's usually signals a sub-market that's still developing and expanding outward. So for buyers who are open to being slightly outside of Boise proper, areas like Caldwell can offer a different kind of opportunity, especially for a long-term growth perspective. Community investment, quality of life signals. There are also a few smaller updates that don't always make headlines, but actually matter quite a bit for livability. A new early education center being built in Boise, major upgrades to McDevitt Park, including trails, a pump track, and new outdoor spaces. And these type of investments, parks, schools, childcare, they don't always move prices immediately, but they absolutely influence where people want to live, how neighbors evolve, and long-term desirability. Then there are the smaller, almost anecdotal moments like Caldwell installing parking meters and then removing them after community pushback. And while that might sound minor, it actually says something important. There's a strong sensitivity right now to cost of living, accessibility for local businesses, and maintaining a certain feel in these growing communities, which is something Boise and the surrounding areas are constantly balancing as they grow. So when you zoom out and look at all of this together, you have policy changes aimed to increasing housing, ongoing job growth and economic investment, some corporate shifts, and continued expansion into surrounding areas. And all of that feeds directly back into what we're seeing in the housing market. Boise isn't just growing, it's figuring out how to grow. And that tends to create a market that's a little more thoughtful, a little bit more balanced, and a little bit more strategic to navigate. If I had to sum up April's report in the simplest way, this is a market where you want to understand what you're doing. Not rush, not sit on the sidelines, just move with a little bit more intention because the opportunities are there. They're just not obvious as they used to be. And the good ones get taken fast. So if you're thinking about making a move to Boise and want a clear strategic approach, feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk through your specific situation. I'll also link some free guides and a way to contact me below, and I look forward to seeing you in the next month report.